My dad had told me when I got out of the academy, he said, listen, if you're going to do this job, do it great. Just do everything great you can with what's in front of you, whether you're answering a phone or doing a homicide case. Just do it great. And I lived with that and carried that on my entire career.
Team Never Quit. Team Never Quit. Team Never Quit Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the TNQ podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Luttrell. Every week, it's my job to fire you up, to ignite the legend inside of you, and to push you to your greatness. Join me every week as I take you into my briefing room with some of the most hard-charging people on the planet. They're going to show you how to embrace the suck of life, teach you the values of working your ass off, and charge through whatever life throws at you. This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get your show. So today, before we get to our special guest, let's kick it off with our weekly Patreon question. And this week we have, what is your go-to late night food? Your late night snack, if you have one.
My late night snack is cereal, without a doubt.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's it. Whatever it is. Captain Crunch, Frosted Flakes, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but a good cereal at night is my go-to for sure.
Marcus used to be a big late night.
Yeah, I go through phases.
That was aggressive, though.
Yeah, I had a whole box of it.
And a steak.
I had this crazy time in my life that I went through that. Now, I try not to do it anymore, but I tell you what, bro, I got on this Toll House chocolate chip cookie kind of and cold milk deal. And that's been around for a long time.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, Santa Claus. Bernie Mac did that. I remember watching him. So it's kind of milk and cookies in the middle of the night. Just kind of hit the spot.
Okay.
I'm not hungry in the middle of the night. I don't have a late night snack thing.
My daughter does the honey buns.
Yeah, Addie is on this honey bun
Honey buns
kick.
are great. It's just a...
She'll even, if I'm up late, which is very rare, I'll see her come downstairs to go in the pantry to grab a honey bun.
I saw the box this morning was laying on the ground. and the light on the kitchen was on. Our kids are kind of still intimidated by the dark, right? So I'll know when they've been up moving around. When I come into the living room, every light's on.
Yeah, that's a sign.
That's a sign, right?
What are yours, Hunter?
I pretty much just grab whatever's in front of me. There's nothing specific. It ranges from protein bars, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, some almond milk.
Ew. Do you like that?
Yeah.
That's the only milk I drink.
Ew. Well, good for you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I imagine the people got some crazy ones.
Yeah. Marcus says it used to be way back in the day when he would have these cravings. We called them the feedings. In the middle of the night, he would come in and his plate would have like pancakes, mac and cheese,
spaghetti,
syrup.
Just empty the fridge, whatever it was. I just
all in the same plate. It was like in Elf when he's eating like the syrup on spaghetti or whatever.
Yeah, I do that.
That
it's like every craving, every taste bud you had to be activated. Remember when we were on deployments when they put us in the sandbox and you come back in the middle of the night and it was just what was left over and you kind of throw all that into one. That's where I learned that.
Especially when you're hungry.
When you're
Once
hungry,
in front of you, that's it.
And if you're tired, you're not really paying attention. I noticed that. So it didn't really matter. I just kind of get after it. And yeah. But if you're working out all the time and you're in the sandbox and your days, it wasn't really a big deal. Now that I don't do that, and if I ate like that now, it'd probably kill me.
Yeah.
I think back of the way I ate when I was working, and I want to throw up just thinking about what I ate.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It was just fuel. I always looked at food as just, now I enjoy it, the meal, the whole process of what it is, but back in the day, it was just fuel. I didn't care what it was. Just put it in there, and I'm going to go.
Right. It was fuel, and it was quick.
Quick, yeah.
What can I just grab, get in the car, and go?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. That was a good question. Well, thanks for coming on here, bro. Man, I can't wait to get in your backstory. We've like I said, I got a file on you, and you look way too young to be having all these accolades. So, interestingly, to introduce you to the team, man, Tom Smith. Thank you again for coming on the show. Where you? Who's your people, and where'd you come from?
NYPD for 30 years, still in New York, still doing a lot of stuff law enforcement wise. So doesn't leave you. You know, you can retire, you can be out of it, but that drive and what I got in my DNA doesn't leave.
My favorite part when I finally got a chance to come up and see y'all, start hanging out. If you want to see the city, get with a cop or a firefighter. And come to find out, you guys have history. Do you have a history of NYPD in your family?
Oh, yes, my dad.
That's
Yep.
what I thought. Y'all are all legacies, or triple
Yes.
legacies. And then I ran into a couple of brothers that were friends with my buddy Mike Murphy, and they switched. They're twins. One was a firefighter, one was a cop, and then about 10 years into it, they decided to flip jobs. And I'm not talking about hiding it. I'm talking about they actually went to the academies and switched. So it's
Yeah, that does happen a lot, especially in the fire department and police department. A lot of guys, just isn't what they thought it was, and they switch and go the other direction, and it works out for them. But that does happen a lot.
So when did you decide to be a police officer?
I did really young. I mean, like I said, my dad was an NYPD detective, so I grew up in that world. I grew up wanting to be him. My dad was my hero, my mentor, everything to me. So watching him work and watching him come home every night with that gold shield that I used to steal, put on my belt, run around, chase my sisters around, when I was 7, 8 years old. And that was all I wanted to do. I was infatuated with what he did and the work he did and the stories of his cases. It was just something that was kind of unavoidable. I knew, real young what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And thankfully, a lot of people don't get to do that. You have a dream, you have an idea of what you want to do, and a lot of people don't get to do it. And I was fortunate enough to have accomplished a lot. Passed him a couple of times, which is always a thing when he was alive. We kind of measure where we were at, what we did, who did better, who got promoted quicker. So that was a great relationship we had.
How old were you when you went to the academy?
22.
God, man. What about your mom?
My mom, they both passed, unfortunately, but they're both together now, which is good. But my mom, was hesitant at first because of what she went through with my dad. My dad worked in New York City in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when New York City was a completely out of control animal during those times. So she had to live with that, and then thinking about what the 80s and early 90s were in New York City, which was very similar to what was going on in the 60s and 70s. Crime was out of control. Cops were getting killed. Cops were getting shot. So she had that on her mind as well, but understood that whatever she said wasn't going to change. That's what I was going to do. And she was the most supportive mom of what I was doing anyone could have, and my dad. And I was actually with my wife before I got on the job. So she was even all ready for, what was going to take place in my life.
She have any idea what that meant? You were 22 when you went in, so you got married, when you were 19?
24.
Oh, good check.
So, we were dating when I got on, then got engaged when, a couple of years into it. But, she had my mom to rely on. I have 4 older sisters, so they're very close. Angie's very close with my sisters. So she had a great support team, a support network of what I was going to be doing, what things meant. Hey, if he doesn't call you, it's okay. He'll be all right. And kind of trusting my ability and what I was doing, waiting for that call to just say, hey, I'm okay. I'll see you later when I get home. So she grew up with the job just as much as any of us.
Where'd you go in first when you came out of the academy?
I went to the 30 precinct, which at the time was one of the busiest precincts in New York. It was a 1 square mile stretch in the west side of Harlem and Washington Heights. And just to put it in perspective, around that time, New York City was averaging 2,800 to 3,000 homicides a year
My
and
gosh.
125,000 robberies and 89,000 rapes. That's what New York City was at the time. My precinct alone, I believe in 1993 or 94, in 1 square mile had 100 homicides. So that's what we were dealing with every single night when we went. And you had no choice. You had to learn the job quick because every night was a fire. Every night was 0 to 100 in a minute. So you had to learn the job quick, and I did. I focused on what I wanted to do and just being the best cop I could. My dad had told me when I got out of the academy, he said, listen, if you're going to do this job, do it great. Just do everything great you can with what's in front of you, whether you're answering a phone or doing a homicide case. Just do it great. And I lived with that and carried that on my entire career.
That's probably the message for the podcast right there. I mean, and when you break it down, everything, no matter what it is, every moment in your life in one day, just do it great. Do you remember your first day?
Oh yeah.
Oh, can you tell me about it?
And it's funny because it's not made up. When I tell the story, people are like, there's no way that happened, and it did. We were on patrol. My first night was actually with our training sergeant and another cop in a radio car. So we were driving around. My first night, about 3 hours probably into the tour, chased a guy down 145th Street with a gun, down from Amsterdam down to Broadway, over a fence in an alleyway, ended up tackling him, recovering the gun with a laser sight on it and the whole 9 yards. That was my first night on patrol.
What does that even feel like? I mean, when you walk into the precinct and as busy as it was and the reputation that New York has and you're everything, they all know you're brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the good sergeants put you in the crap early.
Yeah, but you know what? That's what I wanted. I wanted to be in a busy place. I wanted to do that every night because it makes you better. It gets you going. It makes you motivated to come to work. You enjoy the job more because that's what the job was to all of us who were young. I'd say this just to put what that job meant during that time frame in perspective. When I took the test, I actually took the test in 1987, and there were a number of hiring freezes that happened. That's why we didn't get hired until 1990. But when I took the test, 85,000 people took that test
Wow.
in New York City. That's how revered the NYPD was at that time.
Yeah.
So everything you wanted, you put 100% into it, so you got what you wanted.
Well, they definitely have the reputation, and y'all still have it. I mean, we're watching it unfold on television right now. You guys are in a war for sure. But if you could, I mean, that's the best recruiting tool there is. I mean, if it's supposed to be hard, that's how you get the best.
Absolutely, it's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Right.
So you want to get the best people who are motivated to do this job and do it at a really high level. During that time, it was crazy dangerous. I mean, you had to know what you were doing, or you were going to get hurt because every night, and not exaggerating this, you got in a foot pursuit, you got in a fight, someone got shot, stabbed, robbed, whatever, every single night. And I did 4 to 12s, so that was the busiest tour, during that time. So you had to be ready every night for your worst case scenario to happen.
How do you clean the city up? Like what can you possibly do to clean all of that up? Wasn't it Giuliani that finally came in and cleaned it all up?
Yeah, in 1994, the city dramatically changed. When Rudy Giuliani became mayor, he hired Bill Bratton to be the police commissioner. Now, Bill Bratton's whole concept was, you're cops, you're going to be cops. You want this job, you're going to go do your job and start locking people up at a dramatic rate. But the difference was, Melanie, in now and back then, Rudy Giuliani and Bill Bratton's team had a very easy message. They went to the district attorneys of all 5 boroughs in New York City and told them, listen, if we're going to send our cops out there to do their job, you damn well better do yours. And all these people they're locking up, you better keep in jail. because that's the only way things are going to get cleaned up in the city is if the bad guys stay in jail and we're not falling behind with arresting someone and then they're out in an hour. That's not going to help anything. And they bought into it. And then once the DAs got on board, the federal government got on board. So the United States Attorney's Office also jumped on board with federal jobs that they were doing with trigger lock, with enhancing arrests into a federal prosecution, RICO cases. So everyone was on the same page. And that's how we got the city turned around from 3,000 homicides and dramatically each year just dropped and dropped and dropped because of a team concept.
How do you walk that fine line, though, of locking people up and making sure that they were the right person to lock up?
Well, a lot of times back then, it was pretty obvious because when you had people getting shot right in front of you, you kind of knew who the bad guys were. So, you just relied on your training, on your perception, on your, kind of instinct and what you had in your DNA. It's very hard, and I've said this a lot, whether it's true or not, but it's my feeling. It's hard to get trained to be a cop and then to get it to a certain level. I just think it's kind of in your DNA already of being at a certain level and having that drive and perception of what you need to do. And what the job does is just get it better. So you just get yourself better and more motivated to do a job each day. Like, hey, I made that arrest, or I made that many arrests next month. Let me do more. Let me make more next month, or get a better understanding of investigations. And, you gravitate to people who are good at that craft and good at what they did. And what I did was, when you're a rookie, you get placed with different people on different tours until you kind of get a steady partner. And what I did was take a little of each person I worked with, of what I liked about what they did, and then made it my own.
Yeah.
So it just made me better.
That's how you create your persona. It comes from other people.
Right.
I got a question for you. When you drop in, same way with the wars, like our generation dropped in there when it was freaking chaos. And I mean, we had to go so hard in the paint, and you get so amped up, and you eat that every single day. That's kind of what you become. I think one of the hardest things for us is when everything calms down. Because you got the next generation coming in who wants to prove themselves to us. So they go out looking for it, as opposed to when we were in there, it came and found us.
Right.
Y'all have that problem?
Yeah, you see it and here's why, because crime goes down.
Yeah.
Neighborhoods change. So the people coming in after you have to adjust to what the environment is now. We were in a complete, war zone on a law enforcement level. So once we did our job, and that was the frustrating part. Not to jump ahead too much, but when you start to see different administrations come into New York City and the revolving door starts, you kind of look back at what we did as being a waste. We put blood, sweat, and tears into cleaning the city up. And then new administrations come in with new rules about what they think is more important. And you see a dramatic change in what the city was and what it is now.
Yeah. Finding that balance is tough, especially through the generations.
Because there has to be a balance. Like I don't know if you ever, I'm sure you heard about it because you were in NYPD, but I remember seeing that documentary, the Central Park 5.
Mm-hmm.
That case, that was so incredibly sad. Like, these kids got wrongfully accused for this murder in Central Park. And, like, thinking, because I am 100% pro law enforcement. But at that point, it's like, how do you decipher who needs to be arrested and who doesn't, and then gets, locked up with the key thrown away? So I don't know, like, how do you find that balance?
Well, the balance comes from your experience, and each case is different. That case may never happen again. Or the results from that case may never happen again. But you're relying on your own experience and who you are and who you're surrounded with. As much as me and my partner, at the time did a lot together, you always had a team concept and you bounced things off people, and communication was so vital. in what you were thinking, where are we at, with certain cases. And that's the best cases we had was around the team concept. Yeah, I made my collars and made my arrest, either by myself or just with my partner. That's fine. But the big cases that I ended up working later in my career were all team concepts. And that's how you're successful. When you have that communication and that relationship with your team of who's doing what and what you're thinking just makes for better police officers, better military members, when you have that.
Were you in the NYPD when 9/11 happened?
Yes, I was. I was in a robbery unit, a robbery squad in the Bronx at the time. And I was actually off that day. And the story of that day, I was in the car with my daughter, and my parents were actually coming up for lunch that day. And we were in the car going to a store just to pick up some food and snacks, whatever we were having. And I noticed on the radio that there was no music playing. And me and my daughter were talking. She was like 18, 19 months old at the time. So we were joking around. But then I noticed there was no music. And I turned the radio up, and the DJ is interviewing this woman, and she's talking about a plane that had just hit the World Trade Center. The very first thing I did was looked out my windshield and went, wow, how'd they screw that up? Because it was a gorgeous day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. And the first thing I thought of was, one of the tourism planes or helicopters or something hit the building. And didn't really, it wasn't an alert thing. I was like, wow, that's messed up. That's gonna take a lot. Then I pull into the parking lot of the store I'm going to, and the woman on the radio starts hysterically screaming and won't stop. Now I'm like, I'm not laughing, but I'm like, what's this? What's going on? The DJ doesn't know what's going on, so he's trying to get her to calm down and ask her why she's screaming. And then she finally gets the words out that another plane just hit the other building. So I do a U-turn. I call my partner. He said, hey, what's going on? He said, we're under attack. Come pick me up. We got to get down there. So I dropped my daughter off, got my wife situated out of the city because she was in the city at the time. And then went and picked my partner up and headed right down to ground zero that night. And that was a horrible experience, something we'll never forget. And so many memories of that day, will never leave us. The view of it, what ground zero looked like, the smell, watching military jets fly around Manhattan, which you never saw, and you knew the world changed. Everything about the world changed, and we knew it.
I couldn't even imagine what that sounded like when they came down.
You know what? Thankfully, I wasn't down there when they fell. We got down there afterwards, but from people I know who were there, your nightmare. I mean, your worst nightmare, is happening in your city with your cops, with your citizens. And that's what made it hard. It wasn't somewhere else. You didn't watch it on the news. You're looking at your city where I've been in those buildings hundreds of times, driven past it. So that's why, it really hit after, when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
What were the days after that like for NYPD? You hear about the firefighters' stories all the time, but the NYPD, you don't really hear the stories of what y'all were dealing with. Did looting break out or anything like that? Like when there's natural disasters or things like that happen down here? Like if there's a hurricane, it always follows with other bad stuff. Was it like that with 9/11?
No, and that was the incredible part of it. You want to talk about, a horrible event, got it, understand, but an entire city coming together. Every aspect of that city came together because of what happened. Bad guys, criminals,
right?
just regular good people. Everyone was hurt by it, and everyone understood what was going on. And I've never seen this city or any city come together like this place did. But on an NYPD level, it was tough because the rumors were rampant of what building's going to get hit next, who's got a car bomb, who's got that. I mean, it was
Yeah.
how many cops were dead, how many firemen were dead. So you had all these rumors coming in about what was going on. So that was something to deal with. But the way the city came together is something that I'll certainly never forget.
I watched the documentary on it for the first time last year. Like, I just kind of, now that our wars are over, I started doing some reflecting. And Discovery Channel's got a documentary on it that has some camera angles I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a group of firefighters, I think it's one of the chiefs, they're sitting in the street. I think they're checking a gas leak or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about? And that plane came right over top of them. You could hear the intake.
Yep.
I'd never seen that before.
That was the only video of Flight 11 hitting the buildings. There's no other footage of Flight 11 hitting the first building. And that was a random French news crew who was in New York to do just a random documentary on the fire department and just happened to be on a nonsense, I think it was a manhole fire.
Yeah, something crazy.
Yeah, it was something, nothing. And they just happened to be filming a really nothing job. And all of a sudden, that happens right in front of them.
That one was something for sure. So, how many years total did you do in
I did 30 years in the NYPD.
All right, then what?
Well, part of the 30, just so we're on 9/11, so just an understanding of, what the rest of my career was. After 9/11, I got asked to join the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, and spent the last 17 years of my career there. And, your focus as a detective completely changes. Melanie, you said, how do you process, things that are going on? I wasn't looking for the crackhead or the guy doing robberies anymore. I was going after people who wanted to blow the world up. And the world now is my responsibility. So talk about a change from A to B in a really quick way. And understanding how the world works, how terrorism works, terrorist groups, identifying them, and like my dad said early on, if you're going to do it, great, do it. And I put every ounce of energy I ever had into when I was in JTTF. Everything was 100% all the time. I was lucky enough to have done some very interesting things that I'll never forget with, NYPD detectives, we're happy if we go to Jersey, for a day. That's a cool day. And then I end up in 18 different countries, in Afghanistan for 3 months, doing all stuff that is not the norm, but I embraced it so much. I loved every minute of it, but 30 was a nice round number to call it a day. I was still healthy. I was still young enough. My brain was still kind of intact. So, it was time you see people all the time go too long or too much.
Yeah.
And they end up getting hurt or something stupid happens. And I didn't want to do that. So 30 was a nice round number. My wife was cool with it too. So, and the kids, which was great.
So what's that like when you cross over to the Joint Task Force? Because it was just being stood up. And I've been on a couple of those, and I remember when something's first coming into play, it's Old West. Because you're writing the rules, right? You're kind of figuring out what's going on. So being on the ground floor, that's a lot of fun sometimes.
Oh, it was great. I mean, again, Marcus, like I said, the normal NYPD detective didn't get to do what I did. That's why I say I had a fortunate career all the time with talking to members of, security services from other countries, members of the White House, the Pentagon, special ops. Being in Afghanistan, we'll get into, is a completely another world that I'm only one of two detectives who were over there, doing anything. So, when you have that, you're like you said, it's a different world and you have to adjust. You can't act like you're on the corner of 141st and Broadway. Your whole persona, everything, your attitude, the way you communicate has to change. So it was on the go, and you learned really, really quick because you had to.
So what was Afghanistan like for you?
Afghanistan was a experience I will never forget. I'm glad I got to do it, and for a couple of reasons. One, what we were doing was there was a New York Times reporter who got kidnapped.
Is that Daniel?
Excuse me?
Daniel Pearl?
No, David Rode.
Yeah, check.
David Pearl was earlier. David got grabbed in October, November of 2008, and became my case with another guy. We kind of broke it up of getting everyone together here, and he launched to Afghanistan first, and then we switched. And it was more. Afghanistan was more of a mental preparation than physical. I knew physically I'd be okay. I was up on my tactics. I knew I'd be okay physically. It was going from NYPD detective. I'm not going to the Bronx.
Yeah.
I'm getting dropped in a war zone, and I'm not in the military. So I had to be ready for what was going to happen when I got there. And not only running an investigation of a large scale and having so many, agencies on board and dealing with them, but just the danger of it. When you're in the city, all right, if I get jumped or get in a fight, that's one thing. Now looking for snipers and car bombs and everything else that goes on over there is a different mindset. But when I was on the flight from Dubai to Kabul is where I got ready. I just said, I was on the plane. I said, you know what? I'm ready. This is my ball game now. I'm going to make the calls of what's going to happen with this case. And I just took it as, not to downplay it, just another case. I didn't want to make too much of it because then you get wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to run it like I would a regular case. And that's what I did. I kind of ran the source I had, the source I developed and got from the agency as just as if I was in the Bronx, and it worked. And, we ended up getting them out, which was the best part.
Well, that's what makes the great cops. They know their streets. I mean, it helps with y'all a lot of times because y'all grow up there. So you know who's in what house and what their business is. Especially if you
Right.
grew up as kids, because it all flushes into the schools, right? We all talk.
Yes.
And then I remember getting dropped over there in Afghanistan too, man. You just don't know. Well, they don't have streets really, but you don't know.
Right.
That was
Right.
the kind of itchy part.
And that was why, when I got there, the very first thing I wanted to do, which we didn't have, I needed a source.
Yeah.
Because I said, I'm not from here. Exactly what you said, Marcus. I'm not from here. This isn't the Bronx or Brooklyn. I have to get someone who knows this entire country, this entire area, and is dialed into what's going on. And the conversation with the agency was funny because I told them the type of source I wanted. I told them I don't want a terrorist. I don't trust terrorists. Their ideology is screwy, and I won't trust them. I said, I want your worst criminal. Who's your worst criminal in this country? That's who I want to deal with. That's who I want to tap into. And we hooked it up to get the #1 heroin dealer in the country as my source.
Oh, wow.
But you know what? It worked. And here's why it worked, because I just became a cop again. When we met, we had to go down to Kandahar, flew down there, met him, hooked it all up. But I told him, and the way we got off to such a great start, I just, again, put myself in a Bronx setting. I said, listen, man, I don't care what you do down here. I ain't for you. I'm not here for you. I could give a damn less what you do tomorrow, today. I need this guy home, and I know you can help. All the other stuff, I'm not here for. I'm just a cop, and I got to get this guy home. And he looked at me and went, wow, okay, all right, cool. And he believed me. And I was 100% truthful. I could give a damn what he was doing.
Right.
That wasn't the point. And he understood that, and that's why we got along so well, and it worked.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how poor of a neighborhood you walk into. There's a king in there. There's somebody who's running the streets, period. That's just a hierarchy. And with you and I, man, it doesn't matter what you cover our face with. No, even if we speak the language, we're still white dudes. I mean,
Absolutely.
we fought in the one war where we don't blend.
Right.
And thank God
Yep.
we had other people on our teams that can do that. And I mean, we just kind of did our thing, but that's how you got to do it. I mean, immediately when you go in there, man's like, give me the baddest dude you got, because he's going to be my man.
Why
And
did they
that's what I
take?
did. And the agency laughed at me because at first they go, listen, he doesn't really get along with us and he's probably not going to talk to you. And I said, well, let me deal with that.
Yeah.
Let me see where I'm at and let me deal with that. I've done this a couple of times with sources, so let me see what I can do. And we literally got along great. I mean, I went to Dubai with him to visit his mother in the hospital
Oh my gosh.
because I needed to do that. I needed that trust and that relationship to get what I wanted. Did I use him? 100%. Absolutely no doubt about it. But he was cool with that because I wasn't there for him. So he could care less about what I needed, or not paying attention to him. But, that was the best part of that relationship of just cop, bad guy, this is what I need.
What was the intention for them even getting hostages? Like, what did they want?
Oh, that
Money. It was
Yeah,
a big ransom demand that they wanted because they knew who he was and they knew the paper he worked for.
yeah, American money.
That was a golden goose.
Yeah.
That they got. And, through a lot of work, a lot of strategizing, working with the teams up in Bagram who were phenomenal. We were up there quite often with them, kind of going over stuff. And, it worked out. And that was one of those good ones you look back on a career and go, wow, I'm the only NYPD detective to ever get a hostage out of Afghanistan. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, that's real cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be able to get over there and get that done. All right, then where they send you?
That was it. Oh, then after that, just, you know what? I was involved in, a very large post a 9/11 related case. So I just went right back to that and bouncing around the world. And then one of the last things I did, which is another story you don't hear a lot, I stopped a school shooting from happening in the school my daughter was a senior in and my son was a freshman in.
Well, let's hear about it.
Yeah.
So we got a tip one night, and at this point I moved offices. I wasn't in New York City anymore. I was up in the one of the satellite offices in upstate New York near my house. So we covered all the northern counties and anything going on up there. So we get a tip one night. My partner calls me. I had just left the office to go home, and she calls me and said, "Hey, we got a problem." I said, "Okay, what's up? I left 10 minutes ago. What happened in 10 minutes?" So she goes, "I got to meet you. You got to come back here." Now, my partner, Mel, knew my family, knew my kids. We were very tight. So I drive back to the office. I'm like, what's going on? And she said, "We got a tip about a shooting that might happen in the high school." I go, "What high school?" And she looks at me. She goes, "Yours." I was like, "Okay, let's start working it." And what happened was there was a kid on a chat room in a group chat who started throwing out what if scenarios. What if someone shoots a school up? What if someone leaves a note in the school? All this. So we get a picture of the kid. I show it to my daughter right away. She said, "Who's this?" And she goes, "I know who he is. I don't know him, but I know who he is." I said, "Okay." So that was the last I talked to her about this. So we just started systematically going through his social media accounts. And Mel had all these covert accounts set up already from where she used to work before she came to our team. So she started friending him on all these accounts, and he jumped right on, accepting him. So we got an insight into a lot more of his posts. Now we know his two heroes in life were the Columbine shooters. He is infatuated with school shootings. He's looking into all serial killers, Berkowitz, Bundy, Dahmer, all of this. So now we're getting a big, big picture of what is going on in this kid's mind. So we start quietly doing, really covert interviews, really quiet interviews. And we keep hearing that what this kid was doing was asking when the last day of school was. When's the last day of school? Hey, when's the last day of school? Asking all these kids. So we made the determination that he was going to hit the school the last day, which was only about 6 days away. So we had to move our ass to get enough on him to lock him up. And we finally do. We get one text that he sent in a chat, and it says, "I need a gun." So with that, we start on his social media searches, and now he's going into stores and how he's going to get a gun. So that was kind of the last thing we needed. We get a search warrant signed by a judge up here. We get a attack plan all together to hit the house. Now we know he's not home. He's actually at a basketball tournament down in Maryland and on his way home. So we wanted to get in the house before he got home.
So he's playing in the tournament, or was he just at the tournament?
No, he was playing. He was
he was an actual athlete, and he's still doing this?
Yep. Wasn't good, but he was still on the team.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's... All right, go ahead.
So we set up with the state police. They have his route where he's going to be, so they start following him right to the house. We come out of the house, we grab him, and when I tell you one of the most satisfying arrests I've ever made was grabbing him out of the back seat, getting him on the ground, locking him up, meant a lot. Then, to make this even worse, or even a different level, we start doing the search warrant in his house. And we find the diagram of the classroom he's going to do it in. He's got red circles around certain desks, and on the back of it is his hit list of the 5 kids he's going to kill, who are all friends of my kids.
Yeah.
I knew personally every single kid on that list. So it made it even more emotional and of a triumph of locking this kid up and preventing this from happening.
Wow.
This is the one thing that I don't understand is the kids doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, once and he was a sick kid. I mean, there's a lot wrong with him. We ended up locking him up 3 different times. We locked him up this time. We locked him up another time for another threat. And then in the last arrest that we made, we actually locked him up federally because of just what the website was hitting, his communications and stuff. We were able to lock him up federally. He did 5 years in a federal prison and actually just recently got out.
What about the parents? Do you have parents?
He did, and Dad was an alcoholic. Mom kind of just closed her eyes to what was going on with her son. It was a tough situation to deal with, but it needed to be done. I mean, this is a small community, and we came a couple of days away from everyone knowing our town's name on the other side of the world because it would have been a catastrophe.
Well, good on your partner for catching it.
Yeah, way to go, Mel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It was, and like I said before, a lot of teamwork. It was, our team, the 2 local detectives that are working with us, the state police, the U.S. Attorney's Office. We constantly had meetings and who's got what and sharing information because we knew how imminent it was and how if we mess up, it's going to be a problem. We can't mess this up. We have to be on point. We have to get everything conceivably together to get this kid and keep him away. And thankfully, just, some sleepless nights, long days, we're able to stop this and got him.
So we've had enough of these now with the interviews with these kids, the ones that survive. There's got to be a pattern unfolding of why they get pushed into this, right?
You know what it is? It's notoriety. It's kids who no one knows that want to be famous, and that's a big part of it. And the one thing that we professed, and I still do, and I talk in colleges or at the police academy or whatever I may be doing, this case always comes up, not because of what we did and what we were able to prevent, but what we learned from it. These kids who have this mindset have a mechanism in there called leaking. They leak their information and their intent because they are they cannot keep it inside them. They do not have the ability to hold it inside them. They're so jacked up over it, they have to let little pieces of it out.
Sure.
And those are the little pieces that teachers, friends, people in the community need to pay attention to. There's no reason for this kid to be walking around the school asking everyone when the last day of school is. And that was a sign.
Yeah,
that
kids
was him
know that.
getting it off
Right,
his chest that that's what I'm going to do with everybody. You know, and when you look back at school shootings that have happened in the past, that has always happened. These kids give heads ups about what's on their mind because they have the inability to keep it inside them. And that's why I tell these kids in college, there's no police department, no federal agency that has the reach that these kids have today on social media.
Right.
I don't care what department you're in. These kids have all the ability in the world to watch, listen, and see what people are talking about and what might be on their mind. And if you have a thought of, that's wrong, that doesn't seem right, 99% of the time you're going to be right in your assumption. So go tell someone.
Yeah, police yourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, they're definitely different than us. Our generation, we didn't come up with that. We may have invented it and be a part of it, but the people who invent it is one thing. The people who grew up in it, that's completely different. And you're right. I mean, they can get places in that kingdom that we can't. I mean, it's its own world in there.
Things right, and the wording and the you know the way things are said and what they mean
Right.
are all different, you know, across the line. But these kids are so tapped into it, they need to be paying attention too of what's being said and these threats that are out there because it happens every day.
Sure.
They're out there, you know, putting these things on social media and posts of shotguns or whatever they might be doing that more people just need to pay attention to.
Sure. Oh, it makes them look tough so they don't get picked on.
Absolutely right.
Well, they want respect. It's kind of at that age when you're growing up. The hardest age I think is the teenage years. Everyone's mean to each other. You're trying to establish yourself, find your purpose, and no one likes getting bullied.
It's almost like
No,
when
absolutely
they're
not. And you know, no one should have to go through that, but there's other ways to deal with that as well. You know, but I think a lot of times the bully thing, because of certain times that's happened, it's being used as an excuse, and it's not. You know, that's kind of, you know, when you see these school shootings that happen, that's their go-to.
Yeah.
Well, I was bullied. When you find out through the investigation, it's actually not true. So that is a bad fallback. But the bully thing, again, like you just said, Mark, that's the responsibility of teachers in schools to realize it, identify it, see what's going on with it, and stop it.
We need to back it up further than that, too, with the parents with discipline. Because a lot of parents you see, they won't discipline their kids, they'll send them to school to get that. Well, that's not what school's for, really. Because you took the paddle out of the teacher's hands. I mean, you and I probably I know I did, I'm pretty sure you did, got your ass whipped in school if you got out of line. That was still a thing.
Marcus, I went to Catholic school for
so you got whipped every day.
Grammar school and high school.
Even if you don't mess up in Catholic school, they're going to whip your ass. All right. So.
Oh no, not. I mean, you know, in the 70s and then 80s. No, absolutely not. You had nuns who were the toughest women on this earth and didn't care one bit what happened to you, how they were perceived. They didn't care one bit. No. It was all about discipline.
That's why they call them nuns, because they don't take none of your shit. I mean, they don't. That's a real thing. And I mean, you have to have the one thing you give those kids when you're teaching them, discipline. That's how you get your respect. 100%. You don't think about it like that. You think about it because of the fighting and your fists and to be the tough kid and everything like that. It takes a real tough kid to have that discipline and hold it.
Right. And you know what? Part of the problem, like you just said, I think there's so many parents today that want to be their kids' friends instead of their parents. And that's a big problem.
Huge. My father was so adamant about that. He would tell in my face, I'm not your friend at all. I'm your father. Reason being is because we do stupid things with our friends. I still do. He's like, there's got to be one person down here that keeps your little in their ass in check. That's your father. Your dad's for discipline. Your mother gives you manners. Man, that's why it's important to have both of them.
God, that is so on point. That is 100% right. And you know what? My dad, he was the best guy in the world, but my dad was the prototypical Irish detective. 6'3", 245, white hair.
What's up?
His hands were absolute pieces of meat.
Yeah.
And we would, and my sisters taught me this real early in life. And what it was, we grew up in the city. We started, we moved out of the city to upstate New York, not upstate, but outside the city. And my sisters told me the number one thing, the reason you don't get in trouble, don't embarrass dad.
Yeah.
Because dad is going to know everyone who shows up to a scene. He's going to be the first one called, and then his friends are going to know what his kids are doing.
Yeah.
Don't embarrass dad. And I got that drilled into my head when I was like 5 years old. And that lasted my entire life.
It doesn't ever stop. Your friends are the hard. You don't need enemies if you got real friends. Your friends be like, hey, man, what the hell's wrong with your kid? What'd you do wrong, man? I was like, oh, no, dude, I don't know. And this happened to me 2 days ago. I was with a guy. This is how I knew my dad was a good man. Because my buddy my friends loved him. My friends loved my father. And the other day, this guy was telling me something. I was like, hey, man, where'd you learn that? He's like, your father taught me that. I was like, well, he didn't teach me that. Son of a gun, man. He freaking meanest son of, oh, dang. But my friends absolutely loved. They'd come hang out with him even when my brother and I weren't home, just to learn from him. So hats off to him, for sure.
So speaking of, you've been married this whole time to the same woman.
Same woman. Yes, ma'am.
That's hard. I mean,
good job. Valentine's Day is coming up too, bro.
We're together. This year is going to be, we're together for 36 years, and we're going into our 34th year of marriage.
That's big for law enforcement. I know for the military community and law enforcement community, it's a huge divorce rate.
He did both.
Right.
That woman needs to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
She's, you know what? I say it all the time. I am nowhere near where I am without her. Not a shot. We met when we were young, and what she's had to go through, for 30 years of, me being involved in shootings and me being, away from home and in Afghanistan for 3 months, which she sure as hell didn't sign up for when I joined the police department. And then on top of her full-time job as a guidance counselor, taking care of 3 of the best kids in the world, who are all successful and older and had great softball careers and dance careers. And, my son going into law enforcement very soon, and none of them getting in trouble. That had a lot to do with Ange. Yeah, I was there, I'm dad, I get it. But the amount of time she had to bounce in 3 different directions while I was away to make sure they all got to where they needed to be, and the teams they were on, she holds this family together for sure.
Oh, she's got some stories they keep from us, and they got real good at getting away with. Like, hey, just don't get caught. If your dad's a cop and your mom's a guidance counselor, that is a tough road to hoe out there, man. Growing up.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't get, and they realized that real quick.
Sure.
They could come up with a story, and I have a lot of my dad in me. All I need to do is look at them, like, huh? Yeah. And they'll change okay, all right, well, this is what really happened.
Yeah.
But, they just are. I mean, I'm so over the top blessed with what I have the fortune to have in my family and where they're at. It's a lot of work. It's hard work, and you have to have that bond, with your family, because I say it all the time. You get one shot in this life. You get one shot. There's no do-overs. There's no receipts. There's no returns. You get one shot to make an impression in your kids' lives and be part of their lives. And I did that. I might have been exhausted coming home from something, but, I coached softball and baseball for about 17 or 18 years. Went to every dance competition my daughter was in nationally, down at Disney. She modeled, so getting her to photo shoots, and all that. And, it was just something I had a lot of pride in doing, and nothing was going to stop me from doing that.
Is that because you had a good father?
Oh, God. My dad set everything in line for me with what I just said, because he would never miss a thing. My baseball games, my sisters would play in a company softball game, and he would go and watch it. That's just how he was. He wouldn't miss them. They'd be in the city under the Whitestone Bridge or something on a field, and he'd drive there and watch a company softball game. Or my sister was bowling on a Wednesday night. He'd go and watch. That was just how he was, and I took all of that from him. And to tell you a quick story, and I think you'll like this, of what I meant, what the bond of my kids meant to me. And it's in Afghanistan, so that's why I wanted to bring it up now. My daughter had a really good, incredible softball career. She was a pitcher. She actually made the JV team in high school when she was in the seventh grade.
All right.
So I'm over in Afghanistan, and it's one of her first games on JV. Now, I was her coach. She knew how I spoke. She knew what I would say. So 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm in front of the embassy near the flagpole on my phone, getting a play-by-play from my wife about her game. And I'm telling her, all right, tell her this, say this. And my wife was saying it out loud to her. My daughter's on the mound looking at her going, Mom, how do you know to say that? And my wife held the phone up. And Taylor knew I was on the other end of the phone. And I turned around while I'm at the flagpole at the embassy, and I got all the Marines from the security detachment around me going, Tom, what do we got? What are you doing out here at 1 o'clock in the morning? I'm like, my daughter's pitching in New York. So they all right, how many outs are there? What inning is it? They all got into the game.
That's
and
awesome.
The end of the game came, and, I got, all right, 2 outs, 1 strike. I'm getting a text from my wife, 2 strikes. She struck the last girl out to win her first JV game. And, I was happy to be part of that on that level. And she actually wrote a paper that she got a scholarship for about that whole story.
That's
So
cool.
that was pretty cool.
That is very special.
Yeah, my dad set a great precedent too. He didn't come to anything. Let me ask you a question, father to father though. Is there some line that you spit out to them all the time, like a repetitive? And the only reason I want to, because I'm going to steal it from you. I run across great men, and I'll ask them, hey man, is there one thing you do to try to be a great father? And there's some good ones. I was just wondering if you had something that you always said to them.
Not, you know what? I don't know if there was one particular line, but I always said, hey, dream big. You want something, get it. Don't stop because someone may tell you you can't, or something doesn't go right the first time. You have a dream of what you want to do, go get it. Because dreams, to me, don't come that often. You don't get to live your dream a lot. You may think it, you may hope for it, but in order to have a dream and then go and get it, you got to work hard. You got to practice when no one else is practicing. You got to be on the field when no one else is there. Be in a weight room when no one else is there. Because there's someone else that you're going to play down the line. They're doing it.
Yeah.
So you better do it. And that was kind of what I put to my kids, whether it was, my daughter dancing at the level she did in college and videos she was in, to my son, just you want something, go get it.
I like it.
Yeah. That's good because, they always say if you're not training, your enemy is, or your competitor is. There's always
100%.
somebody working harder. It's a good mindset to keep.
What about for marriage? What's your secret sauce for marriage?
You know what? Communication. Angie and I, we talked all the time, and it was not, because the more she knew, the more relaxed she was. When I got into JTTF, it changed a little because I wasn't able to go into what was going on because of just the clearance levels, but I did as much as I could with her when it got to JTTF. But before that, in narcotics and robbery on patrol, it was communication and telling her what happened that night and, getting home and talking it out so I didn't keep it bottled up, which is the worst thing in the world to do because that's why so many problems are going on now. Because guys, girls don't talk, and you need to get it off your chest. And her being a guidance counselor certainly helped, for sure. So, she understood where I was coming from. But just, hey, I'm going here. A quick phone call. I'm okay. I'll see you in a couple hours, I think is what helped every aspect of our marriage, either me being, on the job or just us in general.
Yeah, I got that same piece of advice. It was referred to me as keep your marriage like the Weather Channel, constant updates.
That's good.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's how I remembered it.
Yep.
Man, that's something.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. So you have a podcast now. Do you want to tell our
Yeah,
listeners what
it's
it is?
called Gold Shields, and Taya was kind enough to be a big guest on our show. And what we do is Dan and I, my partner,
Dan
who's my
Murphy,
son,
right? His name's Dan Murphy.
I know he's a Dan Murphy
He's a
too.
Dan.
Yep.
I have a Dan Murphy.
Yep.
A,
All right, good.
a different Dan
Yeah,
Murphy.
different
Yeah.
Dan Murphy, of course, but
Danny and I worked together. He was my sergeant in the gang unit and then in JTTF. And we came up with this idea of there's so many high profile cases, military missions out there that people might know what it is, but don't know what went into it. And kind of getting the backstory of these investigations and missions and true crime authors who talk about and go into in depth into certain cases and then getting victims of crimes that survived. We just wanted to get these stories out and told by the people who went through it. Danny and I had a rule that we weren't going to talk about our own cases and we weren't going to talk about other people's cases. We're going to have them come on and tell their own story about what happened. And we have a format just like you. We don't have a script. We don't have things written down. It's just 3 or 4 people sitting around a bar talking. And people love that. And thankfully, it's going really well. We're really proud of it. We just started our 3rd season, got 106 shows under our belt. So our guests are incredible, from SEAL team members to detectives, LAPD to one of the victims of Ted Bundy, coming on and all things like that. So we run the gamut of true crime, but I think we're more of a true story podcast, which is what I like to tell people. So it's going really well. We're pretty proud of it.
congratulations, brother. Keep up the good work, man.
I have one side question for you. Being a police officer, we just had someone on our podcast that had actually gone to prison for murder. That ended up he ended up being released or served his time. What do you like as a police officer? Do you want to see the people come out and turn into a good person of society? Like, the reason I ask this, we're getting a lot of hate on social media for having this person on. But don't you want a story of redemption? Like, I would think that even as a police officer, as anybody in our community, that someone commits a horrific crime, you want that story of redemption. You want them to serve their time, but then to come out and do something good in the community after that. You don't want to always, I feel like why punish them for the rest of their lives? What do you feel about that? Like, someone that you lock up, would you ever forgive them or want them to come out on the other side a better person?
Yeah, I think a lot depends on what they're in for, obviously. But I think the ones who generally are sorry and can rehabilitate does everybody good. And I think the best people that come out rehabilitated and sorry for what they did and want to change their lives around, I think the best ones to do that is when they go back to prisons and talk to inmates.
Yeah.
When they go on the street and have community council meetings or whatever about their experiences and go into schools and go into companies and talk about what they did wrong, what happened to them, and how they are now, I think greatly benefits, especially young kids who are just wrapped up in this really bad world, especially on the gang level, of not seeing any way out or not having any other options. When you have someone that's telling them, you're going to go to prison, you may get killed in prison, but if you do the right thing and learn from your mistakes and come out and educate people about your mistakes, I think is the best thing for everybody.
Yeah, I think that too. Like,
That's what he does.
yeah, the guy that we had on, he's now doing prison ministry, and he was actually the first person, or the what did he say? Like, the quickest to return back to prison for for not committing a crime. He went back to preach to the fellow prisoners. And I don't know, I have a really hard time with not forgiving when they're asking for forgiveness.
Yep. Hey, that's, you know what? That's life.
That's
you know,
life,
you
man.
want to forgive. You want good people in this world. People make mistakes. Listen, that is everyone. There is no one on planet Earth that hasn't made a mistake. The levels of mistakes are different, obviously. But when you can take that mistake and turn it into something positive to educate, I think is what we all should be doing.
Right.
That's how you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Yeah,
coming
brother.
on.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I had a blast. And again, it was a pleasure and a privilege.
God bless, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.